They came at night, with torches and fear, with laws written by trembling hands, and fire that spoke louder than any woman ever could. This is not a tale of spells and potions. This is a story of power, of silence, of blood, and of the question no one dares to ask. Why were we taught to fear witches and not the men who burned them? Long before the word witch was ever whispered, there were women of knowledge. In Sumeria, priestesses walked barefoot across temple floors, invoking the power of Inanna, goddess of love, war, and divine wrath. In Egypt, the goddess Isis was worshipped for her healing magic, her name spoken in rituals across the ancient world. In Scandinavia, the Volva practiced seer, a form of Norse magic that even frightened the gods. These were not villains. They were guides, healers, midwives. They knew the names of herbs that soothed the dying, and chants that calmed the birth pains of queens and peasants alike. But power that exists outside the reach of kings becomes dangerous. With the rise of Christianity, the sacred feminine became a threat. Old goddesses were recast as demons. Sacred knowledge was labeled heresy. And women who once sat beside firelight, teaching others to heal, became something else in the eyes of the church. Witch, a word that once meant wise, now meant wicked. In 1487, a book was written by two inquisitors. Its name, Malleus Maleficarum, the Hammer of Witches. It claimed women were more likely to be witches because they were weaker in faith and more carnal. It instructed the church not only to find witches, but to break them. The fire spread. In Germany, entire villages were accused. In France, midwives disappeared. In Scotland, a woman named Agnes Sampson was stripped, tortured, and burned, accused of speaking to the devil himself. In England, the Pendle witches were hanged for curses no one could prove. In America, in the Puritan town of Salem, paranoia took root like rot. Young girls cried witch, and the noose answered. Confessions were extracted through pain. Bones were broken. Thumbs crushed. Some spoke only to end the agony. Others never spoke again. Most accused witches were not spellcasters. They were widows, midwives, herbalists, women who owned land, women who spoke up, women who didn't fit. Accusation was power, and those with none paid the price. But even in silence, the myth endured. In secret circles, in whispered stories, in eyes that still glowed red in the flicker of firelight. The witch became more than a villain. She became a question. Today, she walks through stories, through horror films, Halloween masks. She laughs from tarot cards and stirs potions in shadowed tales. But behind the symbols lies a truth. The witch was never the monster. She was the mirror, reflecting a fear far older than fire. The fear of a woman who could not be controlled. So the next time you hear the word witch, remember the herbs buried in her hands, the children she delivered, the books she was never allowed to read. And ask yourself, why were we taught to fear witches? and not the men who burned them.